You know, so much gets talked about like the physical grind of the Big 12, but there's the mental side to this too. You know, you just played Cincinnati, who, you know, for them they were ranked top 25 earlier in the year, had a rough start to the Big 12. Then they've won three straight, and you can kind of see how that mental grind has been for them. I mean, just how much does that, the mental side of that, kind of wear? How much do you think about that? Does it wear on you at this point? And, you know, how much do you lean into like the coaching staff working with the guys at this point, at this point in the season, and how much of it is kind of working with the team psychologist and just saying, hey, you know,
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, you try to think of everything because there's just no. I mean, it's on. I mean, you're just on, and that was our, longest cross country trip, I guess you could say, right? Going to the East Coast and being out there for however 5 days or whatever it was, and I mean, we had two opportunities right there to, we're in those games right to the wire, right to the end. And had every opportunity to win those games. But it's a lot. It's physically tolling. It's mentally tolling. It's just onto the net. You know what I mean? We had an off day yesterday, which I think will be really good for our guys. We played West Virginia. West Virginia, the same boat. I mean, those guys were ranked for a while. Then I think they had lost 4 out of 5, I believe. Going into our game as well. So you just got to stick with it. It's easy to say. It's harder to do. It'll test certainly your physical resiliency, but I think you touched on something there, Brandon, just the mental side of things and with the travel and with the grind and how long you're going. And now you're, in February, whatever day it is today, 12th or 13th. And so it becomes a long season. So you try to change up some of the stimulus. At the same time, it's like, now you're on to Kansas, right? And the preparation, and at the same time, you're always fine-tuning what we're trying to do schematically, or are there guys that are deserving of more minutes or need less minutes, or what have you? So you're always trying to. We have some technology with our sports science thing, just to really keep tabs on our guys, like where they are, from a physical standpoint. Are they getting the right sleep? Are they eating right? Just all that other stuff that goes into it. So sometimes you forget, these guys aren't machines. They're human beings that way, and it's a grind. There's 18 to 24-year-old young men. So there's a lot of things going on, and yeah, you're always talking. I mean, we just got done with a meeting with our staff, and we'll have another one here shortly before practice, and you got to lean into everybody. You know what I mean, and really try to capitalize on our tools or our resources that we have within our department, within our program, to try to help put our guys in the best position for them to be the very best that they can be. But, I think on the flip side, like I look at it, and as a tired, are my eyes probably more black than, typical? I think I got in my house about 3:15 on Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Tuesday night / Wednesday morning. And, 3:15 is 5:15 in the morning, East Coast time, which was what we were used to for 5 days. That's not an excuse. It's how it is. Everybody's got to go through this. But I think what's exciting is, first of all, we get to do what we love to do. As a coach, I love what I get to do, right? I'm very blessed and fortunate. And I'd say our assistants say the same thing. And I'd hope our players, say the same thing. Like everybody plays basketball or sports, maybe for a little bit different reasons, but hopefully it's because it's enjoyable and it's meaningful and they have a passion and a love for it. So when things get going tough, everybody else has, there's a lot of people that have it tougher, right? And so to keep perspective on things. And then the other part of it, I think it's invigorating, being in a new league, right? And you get home and you turn on and you're watching, you're getting ready for Kansas. And we all know the history and tradition of that. And K-State's, the hottest team in the Big 12, right? I mean, Houston's only lost 1 game, but Kansas State's won 6 in a row, right? So like to me that's really invigorating and exciting, right? And to get ready for 2 really, really good teams in the Huntsman Center, right, with 2 games in 3 days. So there's a lot of ways to look at that, and I think your mental capacity and perspective, I think, can make a big difference.
You guys are 0-9 in quad one games, and I don't know how much you're paying attention to that, but given the circumstances surrounding this program, wanting to get back to the tournament for the first time since I think 2016, do you feel that pressure, just looking down the rest of the schedule of like, okay, this is a quad 1 opportunity, this is a quad 2 opportunity. Walk me through your thinking of that and how you approach it as a
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to have way more wins. You always want more, right? And it's precious when you get those, quad 1 opportunities. At the same time, this is a little cliche-ish, but I always just try to approach it for us to be the very best that we can be, no matter who we play, right? Quad 1 wins matter, right? But bad losses matter as well. And at the same time, just with this, we don't really talk about it. I don't look at it like that. We just got to go out and put our best foot forward. Want to see significant improvement, every night out, and give ourselves chances to win. Then you got to find a way to make those. The margins are just so finite. I mean, they're just so, when we beat BYU, comes down to one possession, right? TCU, just down that stretch, it was just back and forth, and we just made just enough plays to kind of keep them at bay, right? Oklahoma State, when we won, we won by a significant margin, but it's just, even Colorado came down the last 3 minutes. So, West Virginia, Jake makes a 3 with 250 to go, roughly, 230 to 250 to go, and we call timeout, and trap, they jump with the ball, they land with the ball. Travel doesn't get called. Now it should be our ball on an end out, which we're pretty good at. And if you score there, now it's a 1-possession game. But it didn't happen. They go down, they shoot a 3, kind of bang, 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 drops in. And now it's up 8, and we just can't get. And then obviously the other night it's tied with, 72-72 going to the last media timeout, and we gave up 2 offensive rebounds, and they made us pay, and we had 2 empty possessions with a bad shot. So, you got to find ways to win those games because it's just so tight, right? In so many of these games when you look around the league.
In the NBA, they talk about one of the most difficult aspects of that is just getting no practice because you're playing all the time. This Big 12 schedule has kind of been that same way for you. How challenging has that been for you as a coach, learning that compared to what you were used to in the Pac-12 and trying to help these guys progress?
Here's the difference. And to be quite frank, I like that rarely are we playing, this weekend's the exception. We play Saturday and Monday, but I like the fact that you can have, you play on Saturday and then play Tuesday or play Wednesday. When I was at most of the leagues I've been in, that's how it's been. So the Pac-12 was honestly for me a little bit of an adjustment. The Summit League had some of that where you play Thursday and Saturday, but a lot of times it was Wednesday and Saturday. It just kind of depended on the week. But I like the fact that now what makes it harder here is the travel's longer. That's what makes it harder. But I like when you have 2 days of prep, to get ready for your opponent. And then you do got to be smart though with it when you have. And then in the Pac-12 also just having the 2 I don't want to say bye weeks, but where you have the 2 weeks where you had the full week of prep to play Colorado. So you can kind of give your guys 2 days off in that week versus your typical 1. So we've had to kind of modify some things like after the West Virginia game because we had just had 3 games in 7 days. After the West Virginia game and then the road trip like that, the next day we had some guys just meeting with our strength coach and trainer doing recovery and mobility. We had other guys getting a bunch of shots up and doing some light, workout stuff. And then we had another group like that, the really low minutes guys playing. You know what I mean? So we're trying to diversify and be really diligent and intentional about what we're trying to accomplish. You get to game this point. You're just always fine tuning. We've been able to add some new things. I think some guys are definitely playing better. Some guys are kind of treading water. But we're still going 5s in practice without just being over the top, obviously. But I do think you got to really see the big picture, in this thing and really plan strategically ahead. Because you're right, like a lot of times the NBA guys, they don't even practice. It's just individual stuff. And we do a little bit of that, but it's still team focus, team concentration. We got a lot of Jake, KD, Miro, those guys are young guys getting, I feel like Miro's kind of trending upward again. KD and Jake are getting real minutes in major spots, right? And so this is the first time those guys are really going through it, especially at this level.
Building off of that, you mentioned earlier the 2 games in the 3 days that you guys have coming up. Does it make the process a little bit easier that both of the games are here at home with because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
getting rid of that travel element and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had our mandatory off day yesterday with the NCAA, and we'll have 2 good days of practice here, hopefully, as we get ready for Kansas. Kansas is very different than they're a different type of team than we've seen this year. Obviously, Hunter Dickinson is a guy that, I mean, I've never seen him in person, but he looks huge on TV, and he's really skilled, averaging whatever, 17, 18 a game, really good passer. But they just have, everyone around them, they just really complement each other well. They play through their bigs, which doesn't necessarily happen a ton in the Big 12. They're a little bit different that way. So it is a different type of prep. And then K-State's just a really unique team. I mean, they're starting 5. They just put you in a lot of, different spots that way. So that'll be a shorter prep, of course, with the one-day prep going into it. But it's good to be at home. Hopefully we'll have a great crowd and really feel that vibe, so to speak, from the crowd.
Kind of talk about player personnel. Kind of like you mentioned, the Big 12 seems like it's a guard-driven league. Lots of skilled guards that can make plays down in late game situations. Past 2 games, you guys have had leads or you've been close to closing out the games. A, what do you feel like defenses are doing that doesn't allow the offense to kind of find a rhythm? And B, knowing what you've seen from the Big 12, how do you kind of approach that going into, the next layer of the offseason and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start the offseason. I mean, we definitely need to, knowing this league, like figuring out this league now, it's been like I feel like I have a very, and I should, right? You've gone through this, however, 13 games into it. It's very easy to see what you got to have, and we need to upgrade our, more athleticism on the perimeter, more playmaking consistently. We have some guys that can do it, but we need it consistently. And then just, can always add more rim protection. I think we're a pretty good rebounding team. Our offensive rebounding as a whole has been very good. We got to get better on the defensive glass consistently. Some of that's position defense. Some of that has been a problem, just like getting beat off the bounce. So now you're rotating over. So you're just naturally not going to be as good. It's just how it is. So, listen, at the end, you can go right through some of the games. We really made team pay. BYU, we were able to really get to the rim consistently in the second half, and it was a plethora of guys. Gabe made some big-time plays late in the Cincinnati win. He got fouled, made a tough pull-up to go up 2 with under 2 minutes to go, and then we were able to hold on. But just the ability to have a shot clock guy, you know what I mean? A guy 8, 7, 6, 5. You can put it in their hands and go. So we got to do it differently because we don't have that consistent, right? Where we just got a guy that can go get a bucket or go get downhill, right, to make a play. So we have to manufacture it differently, whether it's throwing it inside more often, because Ezra is a guy that can do it in a different type of way, right? I think he needs to get more touches. He's been very, very effective. He's got to be able to make his free throws, which I actually feel, he went 0 for 2 the other night, but I do feel like he's made a couple tweaks that are helping him in that manner. But certainly we have to do it differently. We have to screen more effectively. If they're going to switch, we got to be able to, what we want to do against the switches, which our guys know what to do, but then we got to be able to execute it, in a better way. And certainly I thought we did some good things against West Virginia, but obviously the Cincinnati game, we got a little out of control, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but where we just kind of settled. Now, Gabe missed 2 wide open threes in the last 3 minutes. But, he's got to be able to look to be more of a playmaker, which he's been doing more and been doing it pretty well. But obviously when he started 6 for 10 from the 3, he probably got a little, and he said it after the post game, I should have, I settled. And he did definitely settle at times.
Just going back to the sophomores that you just were talking about, KD, Jake, Miro, how they've gotten a lot more on their plate this year,
Yeah.
Obviously a lot more opportunities out there. And now we've got, 2/3, 3/4 of the season
Yep.
of kind of experience to see how these guys have done it. Just curious, how you would assess at this point how these guys have kind of handled it, how they're kind of learning the process, because, it's not just learning in the moment, but kind of big picture for these guys, keeping that positivity, positive learning kind of going forward?
Yeah, first of all, both great kids. They both love the game. They're gym rats. They love to play. They love to compete. Like if you took basketball away from those guys, they'd be miserable. And that doesn't mean they don't have balance in their life. You know, KD wants to be a model. I don't know exactly what Jake wants to do, but I know he loves hunting. So he's always sending me texts with, hey, I got this, So anyway, so they have good balance in their life. At the same time, they love the game, right? They put the time in. They spend extra time in the gym. They want to be special. They ask great questions. Like they truly care. So, they're just going to keep going like this. No doubt about it. Now, when you're a sophomores, back in the day when things were a little more traditional, right? When you'd bring guys in, and usually when you'd kind of have like sophomores at times, I always thought could be the hardest guys to coach, because that freshman year you just I get to play, and then that sophomore they get a taste a little bit of both, but like consistency. For sophomores, these guys are pretty dang consistent. I thought KD had one of his best games of the year against West Virginia. Wasn't quite as good, the other night against Cincinnati. That happens, right? Jake, they both have really, really good moments and highlight moments like, oh my gosh, did they just do that? And then they both will have times where it's like, hey, remember what's got you on the floor. You know what I mean? And you got to be that kind of guy like that, because that's what got you on the floor. So they're trajecting in a great way. They're all about the team. They play the game the right way. I could argue both of them, maybe even KD, just a little more assertive, like ready to shoot because he's a very good shooter, And then the other thing that's really cool with those two guys is I think they really play well together. Like I feel like they really have great synergy on the floor together. That was very noticeable. You guys have heard me over the years say this, but the movie Miracle, when the cone heads are out there and it's like, oh man, like that was obvious with those two almost from the jump this summer. Like they just had natural synergy where they find each other, on the offensive end, and then there's their versatility. That's the thing. They're just so versatile for their size. So you can put them in a lot of positions defensively that are maybe a little unorthodox, but it really helps our team. And then lastly, I'll just leave it, they're smart. So with a game planning thing or within a game, if we decide to do something a little different, maybe we haven't worked on a lot, or you can drop a play, they're going to be able to go and execute that. That seems very obvious in that, trust me, not everybody can do that. Like, just trust me, and so you learn and you put them in different situations in practice or whatever, and they'll go out and execute on the fly. So you learn that you can do that with those guys in a game, and those other guys, you just stay away from it because it's not going to happen, right? And then you're the fool as the coach. So excited with their trajectory. They're just only going to get better and better, and sky's the limit. Nothing will surprise me where they're at in 5 years, 10 years from now.
You've been to so many different road atmospheres in the Big 12. Yeah. Obviously, the Coliseum, Baylor's new arena. I'm losing track of them. But, walk me through what has impressed you about those atmospheres. And I know your job as head coach, you're preparing for winning. But what kind of things do you think could be applied to the Huntsman Center with attendance and so forth?
That's a great question. We played at Baylor, played at TCU, at Houston. We had our Texas run. If we weren't in Utah, we were in Texas in January, right? At West Virginia, at Cincinnati, at Oklahoma State. So, at the end of the day, obviously we usually go we have a shoot around, typically, it depends on, but very rarely do we not. So you see the gym in that environment. Sometimes we go in there the night before, and then, of course, game day. And I'm not, writing notes. It's just every arena has a different vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody, like when we were in the Pac-12, I always felt like, or when we played at Oregon, it felt like we were playing in an NBA. It felt like an NBA game. Like it just felt like an NBA atmosphere, right? UCLA kind of USC kind of had that vibe. So every arena has a little bit different vibe. When you do it one time, we played at Houston, I think 3 times now I have. So that one has a different, but I don't know, you really feel the fan. There's no doubt. West Virginia was sold out. They had a light show going. It was a lot. Like the last two venues, it was very difficult, like to hear in a huddle. If we were here, right, you guys are the players. It was hard. Now maybe they just didn't want to hear me, but it was very difficult. Very difficult. Oklahoma State, the band is right on you. I mean, literally me to that door, basically. Maybe a little farther, but not much farther. So I don't know. The stuff I don't see. I didn't know what an H-Dog was until last week. So I don't know about all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I would love to wish I could speak eloquently on all the different things that go into it. But I think I do know this, and I've said this to many people, our administration. I've said it to everybody. You appreciate the fans. They're coming through thick and thin. They're there to support the Utes. They're all in. They may not always be happy, but they're all in. Right, so you always have the loyalists, so to speak, and then you kind of have the 50-50 fan or the casual fan, and a lot of people, why does my daughter want to go to games? Because she wants to take selfies and be around the cool things that you have on the corridor. What's the concourse? If you have cool things there, oh, I'm here, right? So you're trying to appease there's a lot of people, but it's an entertainment business, right? It's an entertainment business. Of course, you got to have a style of play and guys on the floor you want to surround. Of course, if you're winning, that obviously that helps. But there's a lot that goes into it. That's way above the marketing stuff. I know we're supposed to have a great halftime entertainer at halftime of Kansas. I just saw that yesterday. I usually don't know that because I don't pay attention. But it all matters. It all counts. We all impact winning. Said that many, many times. We have to do our job. I, as the head coach, have to do my job. Our players got to do their job. But they're all factors into having a great environment. Hey, man, that was awesome. Let's do it again. And you got to be able to hit on all the senses. And it's cool. Cincinnati, they redid their place, I don't know how many years ago, but that place was rocking, and it was loud, and that had a kind of a club vibe. It was I don't know. Is that accurate, John?
Yeah, they redid it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was asking more about the club vibe, but you're a lot younger than me, so I didn't know. It's been a minute for me, but they all have a different vibe, and that's a great question. I do think when you go around and feel it and see it, and how basketball is incredibly important in the Big 12. There is no doubt about it, and there's a reason it's been the top league. The last 7 years, whatever it might be. SEC is really good this year. But there's a lot that goes into it. Thank you, guys.